What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk a little bit about what could be going on in the mind of a DJ. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Scott King. I run a DJ company in Orlando, Florida, www.djsorlando.com, and I also run a coaching business, www.coachscottking.com, where I help teach the methods, skills, frameworks that I learned from NLP, hypnosis, and internet marketers in order to gain success with my business from year to year. So today, let's talk a little bit about confidence states and what could be going on in the mind of a DJ when they have to step into a club or a wedding and then control an entire crowd. And how does that work? And how does somebody with enough confidence be able to pull that off and be able to be competent enough to do it? So first of all, before we get too crazy into things, we can talk about emotional states. Now, it's important to understand, and I'm sure most of you do, that you go through different emotional states throughout the day, and you could probably watch a movie and that'll make you sad, or you could watch a movie and that could make you empowered or happy, depending on whatever it is that you're intaking, right? So why is that important, right? So let's say you have to go out there and control a club. Now, a club, you say where there's about 400 or 500 people there, and you got to be the one behind the decks, making sure everything happens for the night. So there's something else I was thinking about just the other day, that what happened with my mindset when I was in a club. So when I was in a club, there was many different dynamics to worry about, right? So you had to control the crowd and keep it busy and popping, rotating a dance floor, making sure people hit the bar, getting on the microphone, getting people motivated, making sure you sent people to the bar, keeping the club owner happy because they're worried about numbers. And then on top of that, you'd have people requesting songs. And then did you want to make sure they were happy, or did you want to look at the bigger picture? There's something else to think about too. There's a lot of events that I would do, I would say like 10 years ago, where there would be like a handful of people, but those were like the most loudest people in the club, right? It's like, oh, you're not playing enough, even though you have, 300 or 400 people dancing, and you got this one group that's super loud, obnoxious, giving you the down thumb, but yet you still have like 400 people dancing. It just didn't make any sense. And then I can start to understand, why DJs are the way that they are, right? So you have to have enough confidence to go in there, and it's almost to the point where you're like cocky. And at the same time, if you don't have the skill level to be able to command a room, and let's say it's a dead night or something like that, then you won't be able to keep your job that long, right? So it's part of job security. So that's where the scarcity mindset comes in, right? So if you're not able to keep it popping and then keep everybody happy while keeping the bar sales up and making sure there's a line at the door, that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. And at the same time, if you don't show up to work that day, right, there's nobody in the club, bartenders ain't making any money, and then you're going to be, looked at as the bad guy. Yet if you come in there and act like a rock star and make everything happen for the night, keep the bar sales up, then you'll be able to keep the job. And at the same time, that gets a little bit political, or it gets a little bit sticky. It's kind of like, well, you better play this one song. This one person has a VIP, and what if it kills the room? But we made that one person with the VIP happy because they're spending the most amount of money, instead of giving situations that I've been in. Instead of giving me all the power to make everything happen, it became a lot of different opinions that'd be thrown at you. And at the same time, it's like, hey, look, I'm just an artist and I'm trying to express what I need to express in order to make things happen for the night. And this could build on your ego depending on how many years you have put into the game, if you know what you're doing. So that's a club dynamic, right? So when it comes to doing private events or weddings or anything like that, you put your ego completely to the side, and it's whatever the client wants, because it's a service-based industry at that point. So when you're at a club, it's all on you. You better make it happen, or this VIP person won't be happy, or you better take this request because this one person knows who the club owner is, or if you don't keep the whole night rolling, the bartenders won't be happy with you. And then on top of that, you still got to get on the microphone and push people to the bar so that they make sure to tip your bartender and buy $2 red fireball shots in the red room or whatever the case may be. It gets a little bit confusing if there's no restrictions. Now, when I was at one of the theme parks at Disney, they had, guidelines and boundaries. It's like, oh, you only play this certain type of music, so just stick to this railroad track. And if they don't like this certain type of music, then they can go to another club, because it was a whole place called Pleasure Island. And it was like, oh, we just do this here. Rock and Roll Beach Club just does rock here. 80s Club, 70s and 80s just does that. So you just stay in your lane, but we have the audience to go in different places depending on what they like. If you have a top 40 club, which is what I moved into after the Pleasure Island days, it was like, oh, just play anything and make it happen. And sometimes it was like, oh, the club owner wants this. You just better make that happen. And then if it doesn't work, then it was the DJ's fault. So I can understand a lot of different things that may be going on inside of a DJ's mind, because they have all these different dynamics to work at. So flip side, right? You're at a wedding or at a private event. You just want to make things happen for the client. And if you just explain to the client, hey, look, with all my years of experience, this will probably work out best. But if they're like, oh no, we're just doing 50s music and that's it, then you just stick to that, because that's the person that's paying the bill, right? Same thing with the wedding. If the bride's like, this is my list for, let's say, religious reasons, right? Like, oh, I just want instrumental music all night long, and they want to treat it like a cocktail hour, and they paid your price, well, then just do that then. And it's not to say with a grain of salt that you can't go up to the client and be like, hey, look, we know you had this on paper. We also know that you're not a DJ that plays for a living. Maybe we might want to change this up, or if you're okay with just what's going on, because it's all in the mind of the person who gave you the check, then you could stay with just that. So these are some things to think about, depending on which situation that you are in. So, a club DJ, they're going off their reputation. They play a certain type of music. They have a reputation of keeping the crowd lit, or whatever that means, right? So they're going to do their thing. So that doesn't also mean that they can vary, depending on what's in front of them, because I've seen, headliner DJs change up their set just because of, they were in a different location than what they're used to, and yet they're able to flip because they were able to read a crowd, and of course they're professionals and they do what they do. But on the same note, those guys, depending on how good they are, wouldn't be so great at like a wedding, because there's so many different things that go on in a wedding, right? Like you have to be able to set up a ceremony, do bridal party introductions. Some people may be really good at scratching, but not really good at talking on the microphone. And it's all about finding, where somebody's best skill level is set, understanding the full scope of what may be going on, because maybe, at a wedding, some, grandma wants to hear like a line dance, but the bride is like, I don't want any line dances at my wedding, which you would want to go with whoever's paying you. Or in this case, gets a little tricky, because sometimes parents are paying for it, but don't realize it's not their wedding. It's something else to think about as well. So guys, I just had to get that off my chest. I hope some of that made some sense. Been 30 years as a DJ, club, weddings, corporate, flew around the world, did all these crazy things. And at the same time, do what you got to do to get through the event. Guys, you're amazing. Thanks for checking out this video. I'll catch you on the next one.